Okay, welcome. I think to this session on Living Labs Water Indonesia. I was just struggling a bit. I hope you're all there. I can see that quite a few people have entered. So thanks very much for joining, and I'm looking forward to a nice and informative and inspirational session on how Living Lab work in Indonesia. The session is on the context of our session is that we have been working on Living Labs water in Indonesia for quite some time already, with several universities and research institutes, both from the Netherlands and Indonesia. And we're happy to share some of the work which we have done so far. And also we are happy, of course, and interested to hear what you think about our initiatives and also what your contribution could be. My name is Peter van der Meer. I'm an associate professor at Van Hal Larenstein University of Applied Sciences in the Netherlands, where I work on tropical forests and oil palm. I've been working in Indonesia for quite some time already, especially in peat areas, and now I will be also joining in one of the sessions later on. I'm the chair of today, and maybe we can go to the next slide, Tuan. I see that the slides are now in the picture. It's all for us. It's also new, so I'm sorry, and I apologize already a little bit for any errors which can happen. The session is on Living Labs on Water Indonesia, and one of the things we are working on is improving sustainability in those areas and looking for a good combination between productivity, social functions, but also maintaining biodiversity and ecosystem services. We have been working on in several areas. Maybe you can show the next slide, Tuan, already. Those areas have been focusing on both watershed management, river pollution, agroforestry, coastal plastic pollution, and also peat rehabilitation. Several of the colleagues who are involved today will elaborate on that in the specific sub-sessions. But overall, what we like to and what we are addressing is several of the sustainable development goals, and addressing so-called wicked problems. And the approach we take for that is Living Labs, and that is what in the first session of Twan Smits will be elaborated. What are those Living Labs, and how can that work in solving those wicked problems, and also combining both research and education. And that is one of the main things we are also working on in those Living Labs. I think I like to show now my role as chair is to guide everything in good order, and also I will show you the program first of what we will be doing today. We have 1 hour, which is quite challenging because what we first will do thanks. Then we will first have a plenary session led by Professor Twan Smits, and that will elaborate on the Living Lab approach, what we have done so far, and what some of the challenges we have been facing. Then, after about 10 minutes, we will go into 4 breakout groups, where I read them out here. The first one is on climate adaptation and water quality. That's the Living Lab in Semarang. Then the second breakout groups is on Surabaya. Living Lab Surabaya is on circular coastal management. The third one is on the Living Lab Yogyakarta, where we are looking at integrated watershed management. And the fourth one is on the Living Lab Kalimantan, where we are working on sustainable peatlands. One thing is that, I'll come to that later. Then we will have a discussion in there for about 20 minutes. There will be some explanation, more details about what we have done there. Then we will be going into discussion with you. We will, in each of the 4 subgroups, we will discuss the same questions. After that, in the second plenary session, led by Professor Frans Wijssen, also from Radboud University, we will feed back that information, and we try to look for some common grounds. We try to come up with some common lessons and also give some recommendations how to proceed in those living labs, and also see what we can learn from each other. And once again, you're all very much invited to take part, to listen what we have done, but also to give your own impressions and also give your own ideas, maybe also about how you can collaborate in one of our living labs. That would be, of course, very interesting for us to hear. Now, one thing about the sessions is that we need to make subgroups. You will be divided in one of the subgroups, so you will automatically go to one of those 4 groups. Unfortunately, we were not able to register all the information so well, but that is something I hope you can cope with. Now, first, to get you started, we have 2 Mentimeter questions. So I hope we can present the first one. Jolien, I hope you can share that online. So yeah, here's the. I hope you have all your mobiles or your laptop ready to give us some feedback on those questions. The first question is, have you ever heard about a living lab? Because it's quite a new concept. So you can go into menti.com, use the code given at the top of this slide, which is being highlighted. So enter the code 5246790, and then you will automatically be transferred to this question, and you get 4 options. I see already there's one person who has entered. There are 4 options to choose from. Living what? I have a vague idea, I understand, or I've worked with it. So the 4 gradations. And we're happy to, we would be interested to learn how experienced you are and whether you have been working, and whether you know what a living lab is. Now I see already that quite some people have a vague idea. Some people understand the concept, some people have been working with it, so that's also good to learn. Living what? Okay, I see that the trend developing is that, no, there are some more. Okay. It's about 50-50. Quite a few people still have been working with it, which is maybe not surprising if you joined this session, of course. What do you think, Jolien? Shall we move to the following question, or we still need some time?
We can go to the next question, or actually the first question, because this is the second.
Oh. Okay.
Maybe Twan, if you can, yes.
Okay, great. There's the other one. So you can still use the same code, and so we are interested also to learn what type of stakeholder are you. So are you a researcher, or are you working for a research institute, or are you a student? Are you working for a company? Are you working for a government, or are you from an NGO or citizen or media? So please again fill in so we get a bit of an understanding about who is sitting here, because that is of course the disadvantage that do not see that. Okay. Now there is quite a big group of researchers, students, or people working for knowledge institutes, I see, which is good. So far, no company yet. Okay. I think also looking at the time, maybe that we go to the next speaker. So thanks very much all for your input in this. We will maybe have another look later at this. I think you can still fill it in. So I want to give the floor to Twan for the first session on living labs. Twan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Peter, and thank you all for joining us. It's long time that we have seen you in real life, but it's quite happy. I'm quite happy to meet you also in cyberspace as we are now. Well, the votes were were clear. Most of you are researchers. We have someone of the governmental organizations and a very low number of business people. And that's quite important to have them also joining in our living labs. And I will explain briefly why that is. Okay, this is not the right, okay, this is the right button. And that was another lady. Yesterday we had a nice meeting with the Nobel Prize winner Ben Vering from the Netherlands on organic chemistry. But I would like to draw some attention to another prize winner, Nobel Prize winner, Elinor Ostrom, because she's quite pivotal for the objectives we have in our living labs. And that is, of course, sustainable use of ecosystem services. That could be water resources, that could be forestry, that could be fishery, and how we deal with our rivers, for instance. And she won this Nobel Prize in 2009 already for the economics. And why was that? Because she demonstrated that if people, if society follow a certain set of rules, we are able to manage natural resources in an economically and ecological sustainable way. And that's quite important. And this set of rules, of course, is quite long, so I will not dwell on that. But she drafted these rules from this scheme, this Socio Ecological System Framework, as he called it. And as you can see, there are some components which are, I think you can recognize them. You have the resource units, forestry, fishery, for instance. You have the resource systems, that's more the natural sciences on the systems level that you need. So the natural sciences are more in this plot of the diagram. And she said, well, this is mostly a world of scientists. They do not really talk with each other. But then again, we see in real world, you have also this world of policy and rules and regulations, the governmental organizations, and of course the users. So these are the people who consume, but which also have a special role with natural resources. For instance, this is one of the PhD students, which are, came forth from our living labs. And it's really about the cultural and spiritual context, how people perceive water pollution in the Citarum River or in water resources. So also this kind of studies are quite important. Now, here we have this set of natural scientists, and here are more the social scientists. What we do in a living lab is to bring them together and to get interaction coming forth from that. And this is exactly what Ostrom was pointing out. If we do that, we can accelerate innovations that will make sustainable use of ecosystem services feasible. That's what we are doing in our living labs. So what we have done up to now is that we have a number of living labs started in the region of Bandung, Citarum, one of the first, I think. Then also in Surabaya, in Kupang, Semarang, Yogyakarta, and Kalimantan. So that is quite a track record where we started with our living labs. And these living labs, they already produced a number of technical and non-technical innovations that can solve these complex problems which we encounter and perceive in these regions. For instance, we mentioned that a technological innovation. If we can come up with a machine that can dye textile without polluting the river system, that would be really great. People will have still their jobs without polluting the river system. This DICO innovation is in the midst of that. But also when it comes to non-technical innovation is that we have more policy innovations which prevent that there are all kinds of conflicting laws and economic incentives. So to go on further, innovative and fruitful collaboration between administrators, entrepreneurs, citizens, that could be also NGOs and experts. That's what we want in these living labs. Up to now, we were quite successful in bringing the researchers together and governmental organizations. It's quite difficult also to involve the citizens and the entrepreneurs, the business people. And that's what, yeah, one of the focal points we will address in the breakout groups later on. What we also concluded is that the Living Labs experience so far are quite an interesting place for PhD students. And not only PhD students, we have already 10 PhD students coming forth from these Living Lab, but also master students. So it's very intriguing for students to be in the midst of this arena of business people, of professors, and also governmental organizations. And yes, of course, we know and we realize that this winter event is really focusing on realizing the SDGs. But if we are doing this work of Elena Oostrom and putting that into practice, we automatically will address and realize these global SDGs. So that's even more nice to hear. Well, what we concluded so far is that we should proceed with our efforts in Living Labs. They are really promising, and no one will say it is easy. You know, to bring social scientists and natural scientists together, they also have their own way of talking, their own terminology. But what we know is that you really can accelerate all these innovations if you do so. So it's really helpful, I think, and interesting from both societal and scientific reasons to continue with our Living Lab efforts for the coming 4 to 5 years. And while doing so, we realize a number of SDGs at the local and regional scale in Indonesia. I'm quite convinced of that. But in order to do so, we also need funding to do so. Up to in the past, we had really erratic kind of funding programs, and we need more continuity in our funding programs. So one of the big questions is how can we, and which kind of programs can we address so that the work on Living Labs between Indonesia and Netherlands will be continued for the next 4 or 5 years. That's, I think, very, very pivotal that we address this point. And one of the new possibilities are, of course, the renewed memorandum of understanding between Indonesia and Netherlands, in which also the circular economy is really an important point. But there are perhaps more, and that's also one of the questions we will ask you to address in the breakout rooms. And yes, well, if we know where we can address and find these funding programs, we also should draft a kind of roadmap. Who is going to do what, that we are able in the near future to go on with our Living Lab efforts. So this is a very brief an introduction to what we are going to do in this winter workshop. And now is the moment that we have to go out in the breakout groups. And perhaps Peter, you or Lilian, or sorry, Jolien can tell a little bit more about the logistics, how we can do this.
Thanks, Twan, for your nice presentation. Yes, I think basically what I just explained, that we were unable to get the right registration for all of you for the different Living Labs. So I think you will be divided into one of the Living Lab sub-sessions. We try to cater as much as possible by looking for your own preference, but that is unfortunately not always possible. But if you have a real problem, let us know, and then we can by the chat, and then we can maybe divide you, switch groups. But for the moment, I think you will be divided automatically to one of the 4 subgroups. So the idea is that we have a more detailed session in each of those 4 subgroups, and that we have 20 minutes. So let's try to stick to that. You will get, I think I get an invitation now to join one of the breakout groups. So I suppose that all of you have the same invitation. So I wish you a fruitful meeting, and we see you back in the plenary session in about 20 minutes. Bye-bye. Join.
coming from to make all those land reclamations. Another topic is the mangrove restoration. And can we do mangrove and fishery together in an environmentally friendly way? What is the impact on the water quality again? But also, for instance, the effect of pollution on the mangrove restoration, ongoing mangrove restoration, also in Surabaya. Then probably you heard, if you're from Indonesia, but well, from the people not from Indonesia, of the ongoing disaster already for more than 12 years, well, 15 years already almost, is Lumpur Lapindo. So that's the big mud volcano.
Tegal and Jepara. I think all of the area have been visited by Floris and Eric, yeah, and they know.
With local companies who harvest and process several concrete products from the peat areas.
Yeah.
Maybe we can go to the next slide, Jolien. Maybe by the way, I was not able to contact Nanya, so I hope it will go. We will be okay. And I hope we will not be shut down at a certain moment. But no, can you go back to the previous slide, Jolien? No, this goes a bit fast. So yeah, here what is the Living Lab Kalimantan? It's focusing very much on research and education, and
Okay.
the idea is to go from to help to make this transition from wasteland to valuable land, and we do that by involving students. And today we focus a little bit more on research and education, because that is of course also the overall theme of the whole winter event, of which this is part of that, to look how research and education can collaborate more, and how we can set up more sustainable collaboration between Indonesian and research and education groups. And students play an important role in those living labs. Those living labs, the idea is to approach real life, quite complex problems. And the one we see here on the left are those degraded peat areas. And hopefully by looking at, by collaborating with local farmers, the second picture on the bottom, who are developing all kinds of initiatives. We see also Pak Doni there, by the way, and they doing research and investigations on what crops and what combinations can be used to rehabilitate those degraded peat areas. But also, well, on the following slide, you see the water table. That is, of course, very important in those peat areas to work on that. Now my slide is disappearing again. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
What's
It's
happening?
not working.
Okay. Anyway, that's yeah.
Peter, I think this concept is very good. Yeah, we can accommodate or involve so many stakeholders. Yeah, from researcher, from the community, from government also, and also from company, for example. So it means that this for the student, they can learn more that about the characteristic of the peat, because they must know they must know that about the rule of the water, water for the peat, and also I mentioned that before. How can we make rewetting in the peat? Yeah, like this.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's an important aspect, the rewetting, and to look at whether we can find we call it polyculture.
Polyculture,
kind of way of rewetting the peatland areas and looking for combinations which can grow there.
And also the rule of the canal, for example.
Yeah. Okay. We have still sorry, but a technical remark. We have till 11:45 in our session, Jolien. Now I hear from the organization. So it means, sorry, we have still limited time. So I think we have to go to the following slides because we want to hear some feedback from you as well, and because we are going to use Mentimeter for that. So what we have done so far, maybe Jolien, you can.
Is there maybe anyone that wants to reflect on that? Could be in the Mentimeter as well.
Well, Floris, maybe I can add something.
Thanks. Yeah, great, Erik. Thanks for sharing. Yeah.
When we look at the slides that Pakimam showed us, there are a lot of subjects where we do not have the proper information. We need much more knowledge and information about those situations, what you mentioned, upstream data, downstream data.
For this contribution. So maybe anyone else wants to reflect that, or we can go to the second question. And of course, we will share the slides as well that that has the extensive overview on this. I can share my screen again for the second question. And then maybe as mentioned by Imam as well, about the quadruple helix. So the cooperation that we have or should have, of course, this is not only from scientific point of view, it's also about private partners, public partners, education. How do we make the
So please, Dr. Wawa, if you want to also react on this, feel free to give feedback as well.
I'm already answering the chat because Ibu Sadia asking that, is that a question to who, especially for when you are asking about involving not only the research institute. So I mentioned that in this project, actually we involve the local governments, especially from the East Java.
Now you see?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, sorry, that was, I should select the proper screen. So again, please go to www.menti.com and please use your code 403241. Is everybody there? I see Ika is here, Ibu Haryani, Mita, Pak, I think Pak Wadan. And of course we have a Dutch colleague that I don't say his name, but I saw it. Cor, were you able to enter?
Enter the Menti, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm there now. Yeah.
Yes. If you are so kind to put some input there, it will be very useful for everybody.
Certainly, yeah.
Think most of us are back to this final plenary session. Welcome back to this final session in which we want to share the insights that were gained through the breakout sessions. As Professor Twan Smits already said in his introduction, referring to the Socio Ecological System Framework, when we really want to generate change, we need many stakeholders. So we need the government, we need the knowledge centers, we need businesses, we need the social civil society groups. And well, in practice, of course, we know that this is not always easy. So you were asked in the breakout rooms to focus on 3 issues, basically funding possibilities, how to increase the collaboration between the stakeholders, the quadruple helix collaboration, and what are the next steps. And I hope that Jolien will help us now to get the insights from the Mentimeter.
Yeah, you can see it now on the screen, Frans. Jolien, I see that Jolien is typing it in. I would like to ask, yeah, sorry, Frans, to interrupt, but I would like to ask also the hosts of the other breakout groups. So Eurydice and Lilian and Flores to try to type in some of the feedback they got in their own Mentimeter outcomes. So I hope you had time. We noticed in our session that time was very short.
Yeah.
Although, so we were able to get a little bit on all 3 questions back, but hopefully Lilian, Eurydice, and Flores can type in whereas and Frans can elaborate on that. Yeah, thanks, Frans. Go ahead.
Yeah. And as far as I know, the purple comments come from Jogja, the yellow ones come from Semarang, the orange one from Surabaya, and the blue one from Kalimantan. But I don't see the colors yet.
Yeah, that should be correct. But I see two pink ones or two purple ones from. So I think those are from Yogyakarta, from Eurydice.
Exactly. Yeah. So involving the private sector and faith-based organizations, and now I don't see the other one. But as we have seen from our own Mentimeter in the beginning, most of us came from the knowledge institutes. There was no company present, and only one government official. So what we can learn from that already is that it is easily said that we have to collaborate with government and businesses, but the practice is more difficult. Are there other comments coming up from the first question? What collaboration, research, and funding possibilities do you see in your network? From the own group that I participated in, I found one new insight. Namely, we could investigate more the possibilities of the corporate social responsibility funding by businesses. And that is something that we can look into further. I see an intriguing consortium, Erasmus University, Radboud, UGM, Deltares.
It's actually another color, so I'm not sure from which one, from who this one is, but
it's from me,
the
from
purple
the
one, or
which kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And can you reduce the screen a bit because we cannot see all the? Oh yeah. So the faith-based organizations looking at biodiversity, involving private sector and faith-based organizations.
Okay. Maybe we can continue a little bit to the second question, and you can already. So for the people from the breakout sessions, the leaders, you can already start typing for question 2 and 3 in the meantime. Okay. So you don't have to wait for Frans to continue talking.
Yeah, but maybe just one concrete question, and you can possibly type it in chat. Who has experience with the corporate social responsibility funding of businesses? And if you can help us to get access to those, that would be very helpful. But you just type it in the chat. That. Can we go to the second questions? The quadruple helix collaboration.
A very big yellow sticky note.
But no text yet.
No text yet.
Sorry, now it will come.
I have a bit of problem putting the text. Is it okay if I just talk?
Yeah, that's okay, Floris. Go ahead.
Semarang. Yeah, sorry about that, but I will put it on later on the screen. I'm not sure what's happening, but we had a very good discussion on quadruple helix, and I think in Semarang it's quite well played. So private, public, education, and research as well. But we lack a bit the contact with communities. So a bit of the bottom up. And it could use a bit of top down as well with really national authorities.
Okay,
so
that's interesting because I think in most living labs it's the opposite way. I mean, they have quite some experience with the grassroots and with civil society, but not with government. So that's an interesting insight.
Exactly.
Working with companies, we could approach quite easily and make a consortium. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Peace formation.
Frans, I'm also not able to type something like, let's say, problem.
Yeah, just go ahead, Twan.
Yeah. So we have some experience in addressing big companies like Coca-Cola and beer companies in funding clean water issues and projects. So that belongs to the first column. Was that still, because you asked for that, eh? Is there someone who has experience with that? So we have some experience with that. So perhaps we could help.
Yeah, because that seems to be easy funding and including businesses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we had one comment in our session. Maybe Professor Judy, are you still there? Maybe you could.
Yeah, Peter. Yes, I am still there.
Could elaborate on, yes, could you maybe elaborate on this working with companies and maybe very briefly.
And now that the Indonesian government concerned with if all activities must involve the companies or industry, because they need the what you call that, the collaboration between quadrihelix, within government, academia, community, and also company. This is very important, and government must support this program normally, like this.
Okay.
Do you have experience? I mean, does it work, or is that the policy? But do you have concrete experiences of that? Concrete examples where it works?
Yeah, we have some experience that about the result of this collaboration. Yeah, normally, for example, the important thing, how can we improve the social welfare? Yeah, social, because if we have increased the social welfare, must be involve the company also in these activities like this. Yeah.
Okay. I see one other comment, new comments. The media are important group.
Yeah, media also pentahelix like this. Yeah, pentahelix media also, because if we want to socialize our activities, media is very important.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I see quite some young people quite active on Instagram, other social media, and I'm not sure if at academic institutes we make a lot of use of it. So that would be definitely something to look into, how we can use more the social media and
yeah. But Frans, I would rather see that as a tool, media, than another stakeholder group, if you understand what I mean.
Well, so, unless you can involve those companies, like the companies that are behind the social media.
Yes, of course, but communication is really a kind of tool, and companies really will invest. So I don't think that media will invest in Living Labs, but they will make use of the news facts coming forth from Living Labs.
Yeah.
So
we still have maybe some minutes left. Can we go to the
I see that. I was going to say, we should move to the third question. Yeah.
We have only 3 minutes left, so maybe we can go to the third question. Maybe if it takes too long, we just talk.
Yeah.
Can somebody make a comment on this?
I would like to invite Zaine to give some input here, because we couldn't reach this question, but I'm sure he can contribute here. Zaine.
Zaine, are you there?
Yeah. Yes. Well, I couldn't access the Mentimeter before. I mean, in our session. Yeah, so I didn't see anything actually.
But can you comment on the third question? Can we identify the next steps?
Well, I didn't think about it, but yeah, I think that there was already, I think in the answer to the first question about broader networking with religious organizations and others, and I gave the example before that actually governments are also there are, I mean, the example I gave before was the Peat Land Restoration Agency. They are keen to work with broader sectors of society, so we can engage them. I mean, they have special funding for either for socialization or for other works.
Okay. So I see in the comments also to link up with the Living Labs in the Netherlands. So knowledge exchange, also the use of the new MOU between the Netherlands and the Indonesian government. I'm not sure if we explored all the possibilities there. So these are, I think, important suggestions. What else is coming up? Contact big companies which have businesses in the Netherlands as well. So yeah, of course, that is what we try to do, but as we know, this is not easy.
In the chat box, there are a few suggestions as well.
Sorry?
In the chat box.
Oh, okay.
Zoom. Yeah.
Let's see.
And maybe it's now 12 o'clock here.
Yeah, we should.
So maybe we can go to the last slide, because then we have some.
Okay. Yeah. Just show the slide, the last slide. Yeah.
This one.
How is it looking? So thanks, Frans. Is there a one-liner kind of conclusion on this, or can you summarize it in one or two sentences, how we can proceed?
Well, the one-liner is that we are all very motivated to get this work done, and I think we identified quite some possibilities to make this work. So I thank all of us for this collaboration and input to this very, very interesting session.
Okay, thanks, Frans.
Peter, can I add on Frans' comments?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I think with a small working group, we could elaborate all these ideas in some very concrete steps for the near future, and then also mention some names who can do the activities. So for instance, we could explore this MOU more and better. What are the possibilities? But also we could address some companies which you already know that they are active in Indonesia and the Netherlands, and which have this environmentally friendly image strategy within their company. So that are already 2 actions. I think, and I'm really intrigued by what Zainal and then also Frans is pointing towards. I think if we have a better understanding in the behavioral and spiritual drivers among people, how they deal with the ecosystem services, that is, I think, pivotal knowledge to really realize these SDGs, but also the wider context of sustainable use of ecosystem services. So I really would like to elaborate on that topic too. So there are already 3 topics which we can elaborate later on, I think.
Yeah.
And
thanks,
indeed,
Juan.
also I saw Erasmus University entering in our rooms, and this was Corgit. I never heard of him, but I did some research, and he's on health policy and management and healthcare governance. So I really could see a very nice connection with Deltaris and Rabout University, ECM. So also we could make more effort about that collaboration.
Okay.
I think that's different. Well, I think that's a different core. It's not from Erasmus, but anyway, thanks, Juan, for your comments. Yeah, I see in the chat. Now look at the chat. There's a small correction there.
Oh, sorry.
But thanks for your comments, your concluding comments, both Frans and Juan. And that brings us to the end of our session. Thanks all for joining. For the participants, it was thanks very much for your input. It was a bit of a pressure cooker technique. I hope that you got something that you got out of it, what you were looking for. It was all very tight, the schedule. It's also a bit new for us, of course, to do this by a webinar in such a limited time. But nonetheless, thank you all once again. Thanks all for joining and thinking along, and hopefully we can collaborate in the future. I also want to thank the organizing committee, and at the winner event for hosting us, Nanya and her colleagues. Thanks very much for helping us behind the screens. You did not see that, but she has been working very hard with her colleagues to facilitate that. Also special thanks to Jolien, who has been working very hard, and all our other colleagues, both in the Netherlands and Indonesia. Terima kasih banyak. Thanks very much, and have a nice evening, afternoon to all
Peter,
of you. I hope to see you
I
soon.
have a practical question before we close the session. And it's about, this the intensive session brings up very nice ideas. But and some of us, we are in constant contact. But what about the people that were today during these sessions and that would like to, to collaborate further? How can they reach? Who should they address?
That's in the slide here, in front of you.
Yeah, and I put the link to this because
have a look at,
you cannot click on it, and I put it in the chat actually. So and I think Liliana just now also puts it in the chat, so you can you can find it there.
And I think it's also, you can also look back at the whole presentation. It was recorded. If you go back to, but there, of course, the ones who have been here, they will not be. It's not so much use, but you can see all the other sessions as well. They are on YouTube on the special channel by Winner. But indeed, for the people who want to join up, they can go to this link, which is in the chat. Thanks all again.
Okay.
Hope to meet soon again in live or other digital way. Okay, have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.